this week I actually wanted to take a look at this Himi Gouache set. I bought this probably about 7 or 8 months ago now. I do have a bit of an obsession with clouds at the moment, so I thought it could be really fun to break out the gouache and paint some clouds today, so that is the plan. First off though, I am quite excited to see how these paints are faring up, because I haven't used them probably in about 3 or 4 months. Let's open this up and see how they're looking. I've got a feeling they're going to be quite dry. We'll see. Yeah, so these guys are definitely not looking their best. Some colours look a little more dried out than others. This orangey tone is not looking too bad. You know, it's still, I guess, workable paint. There is this green, because it's at the corner of the palette, it's maybe had a little more exposure to the air or something, but this one is definitely looking the most dried out of all of them. Yeah, no longer jelly. It's probably jelly like underneath. It's still quite it's quite soft enough to push the back of the brush into, which was probably a stupid idea, but hey, this is how we do things in my house. But yeah, if you've ever wondered whether jelly gouache stays looking like jelly, kinda. To be honest, I mean, for sitting about for at least 4 or 5 months not being used, they really are looking a lot better, and they're a lot wetter than I expected. I'm hoping that just by adding water and giving them a really good mix, they will kind of go back to the state that they were in before. I'm going to be quite generous with the amount of water that I use, particularly in the cups on the outer edges, because I just think they're going to need a little extra help. Yeah, the gouache paints have reactivated quite nicely. I wasted a lot of paint and made a huge mess. Here are my beautiful hands. Lovely. My desk is not looking so good. Got a lot of cleaning up to do. The colours and the consistency of the paint, with a little water and a lot of TLC, the paints have definitely gone back to that jelly consistency that they had when I got them. So yeah, happy days. That was quite good fun. If you like messy stuff. Okay, let's get to painting.
All of the reference pictures, other than the last one that I've used for this sketchbook session, were taken from my living room window. It's quite high up, so you can get quite a good view of the sky, and I've been really fascinated by clouds recently, so I thought this was the perfect subject matter to try out. You know, since I'm using a medium that I am very kind of inexperienced with and not very confident with, I wanted to give myself a subject matter that I find interesting and kind of fun to paint. I started off by using really thinned down gouache paint. I wanted to make a gradient going from kind of dark at the top to light at the bottom. I tried to make this a little darker than I thought I should, because I wanted the clouds to really contrast with the light in the centre of the image. These clouds look quite stormy in the reference picture I was using, and out of all of the paintings that I've done today, this is one of my least favourites. I'm not saying that I don't kind of like the way that it turned out, because I think it looks interesting and quite expressive, but I think I got too nitpicky on details and kind of too into the little parts of the painting to kind of see the bigger picture. I didn't really step back and evaluate how things were going, so it started to go quite badly, and you know, when you're in the zone sometimes you don't really notice. So yeah, mistakes were made, but actually I think this painting, although it doesn't look like clouds, kind of turned out looking really quite interesting, almost kind of reminds me of like an acrylic pour, which sounds a little bit ridiculous considering this is, you know, gouache and I was actually trying to paint something. But yeah, it looks really fluid and weird and maybe a little like clouds, but probably, I don't know, a little more watery. It's very strange. I think to fix this, I could have focused on hardening up the edges. I think because I painted the centre kind of light area after painting most of the dark clouds, it kind of I don't know, it just kind of made the darker areas not really look like clouds at all, because I lost those hard edges that I wanted to keep, and the edges I was left with I don't know, they just don't give me cloud vibes. But it's fine, you know, this is what a sketchbook's for. It's for experimenting and playing around and having fun and not really, you know, caring too much about how things turn out, because at the end of the day, you got to do a lot of bad paintings before you do any good ones. Well, you do if you're me. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say on this one. I don't love it, I don't hate it, I think it looks kind of interesting, and yeah, you know, first time painting clouds in gouache was never going to be great, but it was fun and it was really relaxing and enjoyable, so I would definitely recommend trying it out if you are, I don't know, feeling a little bit stagnant with your art, or you want to try painting something really, I don't know, organic. Yeah, it's quite relaxing. For this next painting, I wanted to kind of change the colours up a little bit. I did use some purples in the top one, but the painting had an overall kind of darker vibe. The reference picture looked a bit, I don't know, a bit more stormy, whereas the reference picture I was using for the second painting was a lot lighter, more kind of daytimey clouds. You know, they were quite grey, so I decided to use a purple instead of a grey. I would kind of like to experiment more with this and try using less saturated colours to see how they look, but I tend to gravitate towards quite vibrant and bright colours. I just find them a lot of fun to play around with. But yeah, I mean, this painting was kind of tricky. I didn't put too much detail into the clouds in the distance. I wanted to keep the focus on the clouds right in the foreground. I think I got too hung up on following the reference exactly, and I couldn't really achieve the type of blending with the gouache that I wanted to. I think using a medium that blends really easily, like oils, you know, that doesn't dry as quickly, would have been a lot easier to do this with, but gouache is like the perfect medium for sketchbook sessions and practice paintings because it dries so fast, and you know, you can test out things, you can thumbnail things and do lots of little paintings to get an idea of what you would maybe want to go ahead and do in another painting. So I kind of plan on using gouache more often than I have in future to really plan out paintings that I might do in different mediums later. While I was getting stuck into this painting, I really started to feel like the clouds in the foreground were taking on, I don't know, like more of the form that you would expect from waves. This was very unintentional, and yeah, really, I mean, like I can't pretend that this is what I was trying to do, because you know, it didn't really work out the way I planned, but I still think it looks kind of cool, and Yeah, again, really different from what I pictured, different from the reference, and different from what I was aiming for, but not necessarily bad. Yeah, just different. And I tried using a thicker brush for most of this painting, but I still couldn't resist going in with the little detail brush and messing around. So I ended up spending ages on this, tweaking it, messing about with the contrast, and in the end, never really got to the point that I was totally happy. But, you know, I spent longer than I'd like to admit on this, and, you know, it was a really good learning experience, and I feel like as I moved on with these paintings, I was getting a little closer to what I was aiming for style-wise. And maybe, you know, when I sit down to paint even more clouds in the future, at least I'm going in with a bit more kind of material or practice in my, I don't know, memory bank. Brain? I've no idea, but you know what I mean. Like, I just, you know, it's like muscle memory, I guess, or like, I don't really know. When you learn to do something, it just kind of, you just have a way. So I'm trying to get to that, and the only way to do it is by making lots of mistakes and a mess. So swiftly moving on to painting number 3, I decided, since I've been spending way too much time on these, I wanted to kind of take a step back and make more expressive brushstrokes and kind of challenge myself not to reach for the really like tiny detail brushes. For most of this, really for most of the 3 paintings so far, I have used a size 6 kind of flat brush, which is quite large for these tiny little paintings, and it makes it harder to get detail. But yeah, I always find myself reaching for the little detail brush and wasting a ton of time, where really what I should be trying to achieve to get the most out of these studies is to paint quickly and loosely and expressively, and that'll teach me more about colours and how to apply them quicker than spending 4 hours messing around, putting little tiny white blobs or little details and blending little things out perfectly. Trying to kind of force myself away from my natural want to just sit for ages and work on the same little stupid bit. Trying to take a step back and see the bigger picture, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. This painting was particularly challenging for me because I don't use gouache. I normally use watercolours, and I'm most experienced with watercolours, so getting used to being able to paint light on top of dark is kind of difficult for me. I also struggle with the colours and getting the colours just the way I want them and not really knowing how they're going to dry. So I think my colour accuracy was quite off with this, and I couldn't get the vibrancy that I wanted in the sky with the oranges. I know that I could keep just layering and layering and layering until this looked the way that I wanted it to, but at the end of the day, you know, better to get 50% of the way there and just move on to something else and try again than faff around for ages and end up with a pretty crap painting anyway, because you started from a pretty crap place. But I would like to try this painting again, and what I would do differently is I would probably start in the middle section with a really light wash of yellow or orange and get those warm tones in there first, and then go in and establish the darker shadows of the clouds on the kind of top and the bottom, and you know, then I can add in the little stray bits in the middle. So that's what I would change for next time. So onto my 4th and final painting. I'm not going to lie, by this point I was tired, I was hungry, and I just wanted to get to bed. So instead of pulling out another complicated reference picture from my folder, I opted to try and find a reference picture that was very simple, you know, just one big fluffy cloud. And I also switched my brush to my Jackson's quill brush. I think this is a size 0. This is a mop brush that I use for watercolour, for backgrounds and things mostly. It's a really nice size, it holds a lot of water, a lot of paint, and I really, really love it. And this was the first time I'd used it with gouache, and actually I wish I had used it from the very beginning, because out of all of my paintings, I think the last one that took me about 20 minutes turned out much better than the rest. But hey, you live and you learn. And finally, to finish up, I'm just taking off all of that masking tape. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think. I've also recently launched a Patreon page, so if you love my channel and you want to help me make art content for you on a daily basis, please check that out in the description below. Any support at all is appreciated. Thank you so much, guys. Have an awesome week, and I will see you next time. Bye!